whole country would gather around the wireless.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was a family moment.
Yeah.
We can just see, sorry to interrupt, Michael, we can just see members of the royal family, possibly now, or some of the dignitaries and the guests coming across the, I want to say the forecourt of Buckingham Palace. I'm sure it's got a more official name than that. Making their way down to the Queen Victoria Memorial here at the top of the Mall.
I'm going to have to swap around the other way.
Now, this might be, of course...
Yeah, so they're walking.
The King and the Queen making their way down to take their seats on the raised platform for the procession, and then following that, the fly past.
Yeah. A fusion of colour. There's a lot of them.
That looks very much like Camilla in the blue. Do you think at the front, is that the Queen Camilla with the blue hat?
I would think so.
And the blue dress.
And the procession's just started. They got a signal there.
Yes, there we go.
Here we go.
Yeah,
that is Camilla in blue, the big blue hat, which she's hanging on to because it's a little windy. I can see Tim Lawrence, that's the husband of the Princess Royal.
Sophie Wessex.
Sophie Wessex, the Duchess of York. And there's the young William and Kate's kids.
That's right. There's William and Kate.
William in his royal uniform.
We've just lost that shot. We're going to bring it right back. We're just going to try and bring you that image. The children are there.
So this is the procession, Michael. Talk us through the procession.
So this is the General Officer commanding London District. He's the head of the Household Division, and he's a Major General in rank. You can see from his cocked hat, he's wearing a bicorn hat with swan feathers. It used to be the case, I'm not sure that it still is, it used to be the case, it's not a well-known fact, this, the length of the feathers denoted the rank.
Oh.
If you were a field marshal, your feathers were 11 inches long. All right, don't get any ideas.
Stop now. Keep this family show.
But His Majesty, I think, was in the uniform of an Admiral of the Fleet there. We saw him briefly, and of course, Tim Lawrence, who you mentioned, Andrew, is in the uniform of a Vice Admiral, married to the Princess Royal, and that there's the dais. Most of the people on that dais are veterans, or I believe family of veterans, but pretty much all of the royal family will be there, the serving members of the royal family, working members, including, I think, His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, who's now 89.
Gosh, is he really?
And we're hoping to see him as well. So meanwhile, there's the Major General's retinue now. He's leading the procession. He'll have 1,300 soldiers, sailors and airmen behind him. And there, he's going past, he'll salute now the cenotaph. And we don't see the cenotaph like that very often, with one huge flag.
And is that just because it's VE Day, Michael, they've draped it in the Union flag?
I think they've done that because that's how they originally unveiled it in 1920, Andrew. And there's old black and white newsreel footage of that. And it's quite moving. And George V, the late Queen's grandfather, unveiled it in 1920 with a big flag like that. And there it is again now.
Mm.
And now, of course, it's become the centre of national commemorations.
Oh, absolutely. And it was almost immediately after it was unveiled. They're going past Parliament, of course, and as I say, Big Ben suffered quite a bit of damage in World War II. It was actually May the 11th, 1941, so almost exactly 84 years ago. A bomb destroyed the chamber, but smashed up Big Ben as well. And in fact, I know the chap the glazier, who has recently replaced the glass in the clock face of Big Ben. And there's His Majesty now, taking his seat.
So the crowd bursting into applause at the sign of King Charles as he makes his way to his seat, obviously on the front row.
So that's it. People in the platform are all standing up as he arrives, as you'd expect. Now, it's a great thrill for those veterans who are on that raised platform to be sitting so close to the royals, and then this afternoon they're going to be having afternoon tea.
I know, and if you speak to them, they'll say, I don't know what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
They will, honestly. They just sort of say, I just happen to still be here.
And it was their job.
They say, what did you do? And they say, I remember going to the... At the 75th anniversary of Normandy and talking to the parachute regiment, and these were the boys that were lobbed out at 3:30 in the morning, and of course were scattered all over Normandy. And I said, well, 3:30 in the morning, Nazi Europe, and someone says, Sergeant Major says go.
Oh, yes.
I said, were you scared? They said, no. They said, we trained, we practiced, we were ready for this. And I found that quite humbling.
We can see the young royals there, Charlotte, George and Louis. Oh, I think they've just gone out of shot.
And the sense of humour that generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to a chap the other day, real old East Ender, with quite a lot of campaign medals. He said, Nigel, I've got to sit down. He said, these things weigh a ton,
They are amazing, aren't they? Yeah, and so understated. That's the point about them.
It really is a very different generation to now in every way, and the sense of words like duty, I think meant an awful lot more than perhaps they do today.
I think the royal family they are a link to that history,
They are.
and they are the service and devotion and duty to this country that the King and the late Queen, of course, and her father showed for generations now. And their connection with the military, by the way, is just so key. They value it so very highly. It isn't broadcast very often, but they do write personal letters to military families who may have been bereaved. They keep in close contact with the officers and other ranks. They know what's going on in their regiments.
And the Princess was chatting away to that veteran.
Yeah.
What a treat.
She's
what
brilliant.
a treat. And the ages of the veterans, just to remind you, they're aged between 96 and 104. Amazing. And Nigel, we were saying earlier, just possibly some of them will be here in 5 years' time. I suspect they will.
Yeah,
be.
there'll be some. But no, this humility. I
know.
I went to the 75th Battle of Britain service at St Paul's, and coming out afterwards, and there was a fellow there, Wilkinson, who'd shot down 26 German planes, a proper hero. All Mr Farage said, "Can I have a selfie, please?" I said, No. I should be getting a selfie with you. No, he said, "I want to show my mates in the pub." But this is, you always find this. And also the other thing, I've noticed, I'm sure you have, Michael, too, an element of survivor's guilt.
Oh, yes.
It's quite
They're
common.
always so self-effacing.
Yeah, but why am I still here and others aren't?
Yeah, that's it.
It's a very common thing.
So many of their friends died. Yeah.
I think you have to leave us now, Nigel.
I do, but I'm back in a bit.
We'll look
in
forward
a
to
little
it.
while for the fly past.
Yes, I'll be here for that.
Do you want some antihistamine?
I need something.
Right, thank you, Nigel Farage. Michael Ellis is staying with us.
And we're all coughing and spluttering.
We're looking
here,
at the junior royals.
And William's little boy, Louis, is next to him, and he's looking around.
He's
and
a
his dad's
fidget as
chatting. He is,
usual.
of course
I
he
love
is.
him.
Well,
He's
he's 8
obviously
years old, and he's asked his dad lots of questions. He's got his hand on his dad's shoulder. He's oblivious, isn't he?
He's brilliant. I think he's fantastic. He's fiddling with his little. What do you call them on your shoulders on your military uniform? Epaulette. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Fiddling with Daddy's epaulettes, and George there, obviously looking much more grown up, actually, by the year, actually, than his little brother, and Charlotte, who seems to keep them both in check. It always seems to me. The sister who rolls her eyes at her brothers when they're misbehaving a little bit, chatting to her.
Princess
her
Catherine,
mother.
deep in conversation with veterans. What's she wearing? That's a lovely colour.
They've got a lot to look forward to,
Dark
the youngsters.
berry.
because
Yeah, they
they're
have.
going to be seeing the military personnel.
And they will be so excited by the fly past, as we all will be, Michael Ellis, as we all will be.
King
What's he
there
playing?
wearing his
What is the bugle playing?
bugle playing. To be honest,
You
not
don't know,
sure.
It sounds
right?
a little like
Michael
that's
Ellis,
not
do you
what
know
we're
what he's
doing.
playing?
I think it's a salute.
It's a salute. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
We just see the lifeguards on your screen now. Part of
That'll be one question Michael Ellis can't answer. Surely, they've got to find one.
Can you play the bugle?
Yeah,
Looks quite complicated to be fair.
yeah.
It does.
Especially when riding a horse.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty
Multitasking.
tough without riding a horse, I would have thought. But
So we see the Princess of Wales, Princess Charlotte, Prince George, Prince Louis, the Prince of Wales, and His Majesty the King on his feet, wearing his naval uniform #1 dress with no medals or decorations, because His Majesty's grandfather, King George VI, in 1945 on VE Day, on the Buckingham Palace balcony, did exactly the same thing.
I think it's a way of showing respect, as Andrew was saying before, for the real veterans
Yeah.
of the war.
Yeah, 31 of them, they were there, and some who couldn't make it, who will be watching on television at home.
That's right. That's right.
Really important.
These are the Blues and Royals walking past His Majesty right now on the left-hand side of your screens. As Michael's been saying, the blue tunics, red plumes.
That's right. And their helmets, their famous helmets, were actually designed by Prince Albert.
All right.
And haven't some of them been passed down through the generations as well? So it's the original helmets from Queen Victoria's era.
So Charles is sitting down again now, or is he about to get up again? No?
It's playing,
Yeah.
lots of musical chairs getting up and
Right.
down.
Okay. So so Bev and I here at Buckingham Palace. We're here throughout the day. We're here till 3 o'clock. And
That's
if I'm
right.
not wrong, it's got a little chillier.
It's definitely got a little chilly.
Beverly's put her coat on.
It's quite cloudy here this afternoon now. The sun is behind there somewhere.
But we're gearing up for what for many but the highlight will be the fly past, Bev. It will be dramatic, poignant.
That's right.
Led by the familiar sound of a Lancaster
And
bomber.
we've got all of the military, obviously, all represented here today.
The familiar strain of bagpipes, only one sound can that be,
Yeah.
the bagpipes.
So once the procession has passed down the Mall, the stewards and the police may open the route at that point to allow people to move down the
To
road.
get closer.
To get closer so that they can walk down towards Buckingham Palace, and then the fly past is at 1:45 here. Now, of course, if you're outside of London, you will see it a little earlier.
Yeah.
Because it does come round that sort of southern,
Yeah.
southeastern corner of the country to make its way to London. And there will be, as you say, Andrew, Lancasters, Voyagers, Poseidon, Typhoon, F-35 Lightning jets.
And the Royals, the senior Royals, will be on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, which we watched being
Yeah.
decorated, especially this morning. They had the sweep, they had the security sweepers, of course, and then it's decked with a
Yeah.
royal regalia.
Yeah. Michael Ellis has moved on now, so we've swapped seats, and we're joined back in the studio here by military historian Anthony Tucker-Jones.
Who's written
Hello
70
again.
books?
Hello again, Anthony.
You get another book out of this, actually.
Quite possibly, I think.
They're doing it brilliantly, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, it kind of brings a lump to your throat almost
Doesn't
a bit,
it?
doesn't it? You know, I think it does national pride good, this sort of thing.
I was saying as well, I was wandering around the little media in village here, cameras from all around the world.
Yeah.
In a sense that the eyes of the world are beyond, because victory in Europe, Britain was such a focal part of that.
It was,
And
and
the
also-
King was significant, as was Churchill.
Yeah, I mean it was, and also of course it's a shared event because
Yes.
the Second World War was coalition warfare,
Yeah.
Involved a lot of nations, so
America
we
was
won't
part
be the
of the
only ones that will
liberation.
be marking this.
No,
yes.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And we've talked quite a lot about the monarchy, and there's the monarchy on show,
Yes,
all of it.
yes, indeed. Yeah, you know, famously, of course, King George VI and Churchill were very good friends. You know, initially there was a bit of a frosty
absolutely.
relationship when Churchill was appointed in May 1940. You know, certain elements within the government did not feel that he was a good choice. But,
Sure.
and even the King favoured Lord Halifax, of course.
I think the King admits he'd blundered when he took Chamberlain onto the balcony of Buckingham Palace when he came back wielding that piece of paper, peace in our time, and there wasn't peace in our time. And it's seen in hindsight perhaps a mistake by His Majesty.
Yes, I mean, it was ill-advised, I
Yes.
think. There was a sort of blind faith that, Hitler would
Well, he was desperate for
stick
there
to
to
his
be
word.
peace. Desperate for there to be peace.
Yes, he was, but I mean, Churchill, of course, appreciated that Hitler was not to be trusted.
Yeah.
He was the sort of man who gave him an inch, he would take a mile.
But George VI and Churchill did become unlikely friends, and of course, Churchill, the great orator, George VI, who struggled so much with his public speeches.
Yes, there's a certain irony there, isn't there,
Yes,
that
yeah.
one of them a great orator, the other not, because the King did try, he
Well,
famously
anybody
did
who
his
watched the King's
utmost.
speech
Yes.
will know just how hard it
that he
was for
overcame
him,
it.
and he did it. And then and the King came on the balcony on VE Day countless times, Anthony.
Yes, he did, and of course Churchill again famously invited to join the royal family on the balcony. I think they were cheered by something like 20,000 people.
Unbelievable, yeah.
An absolutely enormous crowd. Churchill, of course, famously appeared at a number of locations during VE Day.
We're looking at little Prince Louis blowing his fringe out of his face. He's probably got the same sniffles that we've all got with the pollen from these plane trees falling down.
Yeah.
But he does look quite gripped. Sometimes it
Yeah.
looks like it might be quite hard to keep his attention in these sorts of days, but He's very much behaving himself right now. I mean, what a spectacle to have a front row seat, because it is stunning to see the synchronicity, in a way, of these marches and the music. He's bobbing up and down in his seat there a little bit. Look,
he's dancing.
William's smiling.
Yeah.
They make it look easy, but it isn't.
No.
It is an art, marching professionally.
Rolling his eyes at his brother. I love him. Can we just keep the camera on Louis all morning, please? I'd be quite happy with that. He's one of those kids who just can't disguise what he's thinking, can he? You can just read it all over his face.
And of course, he's our gaffy, toothless. That lovely photograph of his 8th birthday. He is a cutie. He's a great star of the future.
He really is. With the veteran sat behind him. Can we see who that is, Cameron? You and I have got the list here, I think, of the box.
What is it?
Yes.
We've got our
veteran just behind Prince Louis.
Military historian Anthony. I mean, we know that our military, in terms of numbers, isn't what it was. I mean, it would be, with the army would barely muster the numbers we had during the Crimean War, but it's still the envy of the world in some ways, isn't it?
I mean, the great thing about the British Armed Forces is when they are called upon to do a job, they do it, and they do it with the resources at hand. Famously, we've seen deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan. When it's called on to do something, it does it. Unfortunately, maybe with not the sort of budgets it would like, or indeed the manpower. Certainly, the last 2 wars in Iraq,
that's changing.
Divisional level deployments.
Since Trump, of course, that's changing now. I mean, this government is committed now to 2.5% of GDP, but we're not quite sure when it's going to happen. And pressure. I mean, some Tories are saying we should be spending 3% of GDP on defence.
Yeah, I mean, I have some sympathy with Trump's stance in his perception as NATO does not pull its weight. He's right, the US Armed Forces have underpinned the NATO security guarantee since the creation of NATO.
Very few NATO members actually pay what they're supposed to pay, and America's been picking up the bill.
And this is the King saluting the NATO marching detachments, because members of the armed forces of NATO have been invited by the British government to march in this procession today.
I mean, defence has risen up the agenda politically, Anthony, as a political priority, a political hot potato.
Yes,
partly because Trump says it's America first for me.
Yes, and I think the UK and the other European NATO allies, they need to pull their weight, because the last thing we would want is America pulling out of NATO. I mean, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, it really would.
I know there has been some talk about Sakir, so the NATO commander, not being American anymore, which again, having an American general in command of NATO is quite good, because he sort of acts as an arbiter, if you like, amongst the European allies. So America's always played an important role, and we should be grateful for that, I think.
I think so.
Not to say, famously, British Army of the Rhine for a long time deployed in Germany.
You may have just noticed
Cameron
in the
Walker.
royal box there, everyone started
They started to clap. Who
and
were they
that was
clapping?
when the Ukrainian soldiers walked
Was
past.
it? So
was.
that's interesting.
So the Ukrainian marching detachment walked past, and that's when they all began to clap.
I can see she's sitting in a way that we can all notice her, the Home Secretary. Have you noticed that, Bev, in the blue dress and the hat? That's Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. And we can see politicians, we can see Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. That's a joy for everybody, of course. I can see John Healey, the Defence Secretary. Kemi Baig, not the Conservative Party. I imagine she'd be the only senior Tory there. They haven't got many others.
No, that's right. I think she is the only senior Tory there. Right.
I can't think there'd be many others there. I mean, this isn't about politicians. This is about the military and the veterans.
Yes, it's honouring, those that served during the Second World War. It's honouring kind of the Grand Alliance, if you like, of Britain, America and Russia and all the other allied nations for what they helped achieve. I mean, 8th of May 1945 is a reason for celebration. I think we were discussing earlier.
Sorry to interrupt you. We're just watching Queen Camilla share her blankets with the veteran next to her. That's Jack Mortimer. And she's spreading out the blanket because it isn't very warm here.
And we also caught another glimpse of the Royal Standard, and there was an extraordinary fact from Rafe Hayden Mankiw that the Royal Standard that's fluttering above the palace today is the largest of 4 sizes. It is the size of a tennis court.
It's absolutely enormous.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
You can see the people underneath it, and they're completely dwarfed.
Absolutely. I thought it was a joke at first. We said send for Federer. I'm not sure.
Just see Sir Keir Starmer behind the Queen as well. Speaking to Sir Keir Starmer is a Royal British Legion veteran called Albert Keir.
Yeah, and Lady Vic, his wife, is there because we don't see too much of her by his side. She does what she has to do.
Yeah.
But very important to be there today. Camilla holding on to her hat for dear life.
Yes.
Don't lose that, Ma'am. That would be a bit difficult.
That would be
Now, if the
difficult.
seating plan is correct, next to Kemi Badenoch on her right, that's Alistair Cairns MP with the medals.
I thought it might be. So that's the Armed Forces Minister who did have a long and distinguished military career. Michael, I think you and I were saying he was
Yes.
in the army, he was in the services
Very
almost up until a few weeks before he became an MP.
That's right. A very distinguished military career. He's the Minister for Veterans, and a very well-deserved row of medals there.
Yeah.
And you might hear in the background the pipes and drums. The Scots Guards and the Irish Guards have been, and the RAF pipes and drums have been playing music in the last few minutes. And they're the ones that have just been marching past the King.